Hey guys, today I'm checking out the GE76, but let me do a little bit of housekeeping first. If you've seen a few of my videos and you've gotten any type of value out of it, please, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. It'll mean the world to me. The YouTube algorithm would like me to have at least 1,000 subscribers before they start taking me seriously, and then from there I think they'll start recommending my videos to a wider audience, and there's nothing more than I would love than to grow my current community base. Though it's small, you guys are amazing, and I love reading your comments and I love interacting with you. It really inspires me to keep making more videos, so thank you so far. With that being said, let's talk about this guy. We'll start off with the build and design. It's an aluminum build and it feels just as premium as the Razer, almost. I mean, so we're looking at aluminum at the top lid here. We're also looking at aluminum on the keyboard deck, but the bottom is plastic. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I've mentioned several times that I'd prefer the bottom to be plastic, so you're not burning the surface or your lap when you're cranking out a TGP of 175 watts, along with over like 100 watts on the CPU as well too. So I do appreciate that. I might have mentioned a bit in the GE76 that I wasn't too much of a fan of the design. I mean, I might want to backpedal on that a little bit. What I do like, it is unique. There's not a particular design that looks like this. So just the way the edges kind of slope around, and then you have like this. I still don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like if it's supposed to be a dragon wing or is it supposed to be like a race car design. But one thing I do want to point out about this dragon wing, I guess I'm just gonna call it, is on the GE76. It's a bit glossier compared to a more matte finish on the GE66. I mean, I'm trying to find whatever differences I can find between the two of these. Other than the size and their keyboard, which I can just get into right now. The keyboard is substantially better than the GE66, and if anyone's looked at my first video, which is the 2022 Razer Blade 17 with the 4K panel, you might have heard that this last year, the keyboard on the G76 was my favorite, and that still holds true. I mean, I typed up all of my notes for this review. I've done a lot of like work for my for my 9-to-5 job on this laptop using both the keyboard and the number pad. I love having a number pad. I mean, even if you're not a number cruncher like I am. I mean, I work in accounting, so I'm really accustomed to having a number pad. But even if you're not, just typing in just general queries on websites, just having access to that number pad, I use it all the time, and it's something that I don't know. I can't spend too much time on it because I know I'm probably the only one. So with that being said, I'll just move on from the keyboard. I do want to talk about the trackpad. It's small. It's smaller than I would like. But there's something that MSI does that no other manufacturer is able to do that I've noticed, is it's really precise and accurate. It just glides with your finger. I don't know how to describe it. I feel like there's less latency, and you could be really precise with this trackpad, even though it's small. I don't know, and I mean, just in general, the entire latency on this laptop is a notch better than anything else out there. It's one of the lowest latencies I've experienced, and you notice this when you're connecting a mouse and keyboard, or even just a mouse, because this keyboard is more than functional. I want to talk about the speakers next. They are great. They are really good. I still believe ASUS makes the best speakers in terms of gaming laptop brands, but these are pretty good. It's done by Dyna Audio, and they use Nahimic on the software side, and Nahimic is also used on the Lenovo Legion. The speakers doesn't get as loud as the Razer Blade 17, but it sounds really nice and clean. Sounds very natural, and it doesn't distort at high volumes. There's a good amount of bass. Mids sound fairly well represented, and there's lots of customization in the Nahimic software. I haven't spent too much time with it, But I definitely prefer the default setting, which is just set to music. It sounds the most natural, and you could get like a wider sound, a more dynamic sound. You could, if you switch to the movie mode, then it sounds more punchy, and it seems like it brings up the mids, which might be great for FPS games if there's a lot of explosions going on. But I have been just leaving the default music setting, and that seems to sound the best. And related to the music is the headphone jack. They use an ESS Saber DAC, which gives you unrivaled headphone quality compared to any other laptop. It's by far the best. If you have any type of decent pair of headphones, you will immediately notice the difference. So let's just talk about the rest of the ports then. This has more ports than any other gaming laptop that I know of right now. I mean, not only do you get a combination of 5 USB ports, but it also includes an SD card slot and a dedicated display port. It's in the form of mini display port, but you're not losing a USB port because it's being shared with display ports. So I think that's a very, very, very big win. I don't think you're going to have any issues with running out of I/O on this, guys. The charger is a 330 watt brick. And to my surprise, it's not that much larger. If not, I can't even tell the difference between the 280 watt that ships with the GE76. So that's really good. So I still want, in general, a smaller charger. But I mean, because of the size of this 17-inch laptop, it kind of fits in for the charger size. So like I also, in my rotation right now, I have the G14, the Asus G14. And it uses a massive 240 watt charger for such a small laptop. So it doesn't really fit there. I mean, it's necessary. I know you need the power there. You need the power. But I'm overall happy with the combination of the size of this and the size of the charging brick. I mean, I don't see this as being a travel laptop. I mean, the most you can do is probably take it to Starbucks or something, and probably gonna get some looks because it is a chunky boy, but not too bad. But then if you want to take it to Starbucks or anything like that, you're probably worried about the battery. And the battery last year was absolutely horrendous, even Optimus mode. And I didn't really test the battery on this. So like when I started working on this video for tonight, I was using it. I was walking around my house on battery in Optimus mode in the silent profile. And right before I started this video, I was thinking about plugging it in. But when I just looked at the Windows settings, and I'll just give you an update right now, I'm at 71%, and Windows is predicting I have 4 hours and 27 minutes of battery life left. Next, we can just talk about the display, which is one of my favorite things to talk about in the laptop. I mean, it makes sense. It's what you're looking at the most. Let's get right into it. 100% sRGB, no surprise there. 89% of Adobe RGB. Bit of a surprise there because on MSI's website, there's claiming that this is 100% Adobe RGB. I don't know if there's any limitations to the calibration tool I'm using. I'm open to any suggestions if anybody has some, but I was expecting 100% Adobe RGB and 100% DCI-P3, not 99 or 98, 100%, which is great. And NTSC is 87%. And I mentioned before, that's a number we should be paying attention to. That's where a lot of movies are graded and filmed for. And if we could get to the 90%, NTSC will unlock essentially the full color gamut of what our eyes can see. So that's the number to look out for. That number would like to get better every year. And we would like games to start developing in that gamut. Brightness and contrast was incredible. I got 521 nits of brightness using my colorimeter. The black point was a 0.44. For this caliber of a display, I think that's what you should be expecting. Contrast ratio was 1180 to 1. Again, for a 4K panel with this amount of brightness, with current technology, this is the best I have seen. If you go with a 1080p panel, you might probably get 350 nits of brightness, but your black point would be 0.24, and your contrast ratio would be 1500 or over. And that's when things start to look really, really inky black. I mean, I got a similar experience with the GE76. A 75% brightness I mentioned in that video, that was the sweet spot. A minimum brightness of 26, which is fairly high. You definitely want that to be lower, because if you want to use this laptop in bed before you turn in for the night, it's never dim enough. If you have someone next to you, they're going to yell at you, and it's going to prevent you from sleeping because you have a bright light shining in your face. So, I mean, I'm going to keep on talking about this until they address minimum brightness. I don't know if it's something that's hard to do. Color accuracy out of the box was great. You want to be at a delta E of 2. From what I'm able to see, I'm getting a delta E of 1.43. So, okay, so what's it like to game on this screen? I think this screen is amazing. And the charts and all the analysis I did backs that up. But one thing I'm a bit disappointed on is the fact that it's only 120 hertz. That's not enough for today's gaming. You're going to have to use VSync, and there's a series of issues with using VSync. I wish they had some kind of G-Sync on this. But I mean, there is the Intel's version of it, but you have to be running on Optimus to do that, and no one's going to do that. So for me to enjoy myself, I've been having to use VSync. But if you're playing a game in 4K, there's a chance you're not getting that high of a frame rate anyway, so it's completely usable. But if you just care more about the visual quality, it's there. I do wish it was glossy. My personal preference, that seems to be a topic that's becoming more and more popular these days, so I'll just throw that in there. I do believe you get a sharper picture with glossy displays, and the perceived contrast ratio improves as well. Alright guys, I want to talk about performance. I plan on doing a full dedicated video on the difference between the GE76 and the GE66, mainly because they're the same laptop, there's less room for variability, and I really want to focus on what the difference is between 175 watt TGP and 150 watt TGP, and if it's worth the extra, or if it's worth the size and extra weight of going with the GE76 over the 66. But, I'm not going to leave you guys in the dark, so I'm going to show some of the benchmarks I've been getting, but expect a much larger comparison going forward. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. At 1080p, I'm getting 143 frames per second. But interestingly, I was getting 144 frames per second on the Scar 15, and that just really goes to show how amazing that 15-inch laptop performs. And I think it comes down to the particular type of thermal components that MSI is using versus ASUS. ASUS has been using it for a few years, so maybe they're just better applying it in the factory. MSI is using it for the first time, and there was an interesting article on the type of thermal material that MSI is using, where it depending on the temperature, it switches from a solid to a liquid, and then it should make it last longer. It's interesting stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm going to just say it's performing identically to the Scar 15. One point about the thermal component, the thermal paste applied to the GE76 is they're saying that it should last much longer. So one thing about the Scar, it might perform it might be a top performer today, but in 6-7 months when the thermal paste starts to dry out, I don't know if it'll perform as well. I can't make that judgment, but the point of this is the Scar 15 and the GE76 are leading the pack, and it's because of the CPU. At 1440p, however, the GE76 is leading the pack by a handful of frames. Don't think that's not going to change your gaming experience at all. So let's just moving on. Timespy. The GPU, I got the highest score ever, and the reason why I like testing Timespy is because it isolates just the GPU and then it isolates just the CPU, and that's why I'm probably one of the few reviewers who post those scores independently because they are important to me, instead of just the total. So with that being said, with 175 watts, I am getting the highest score. Is that worth going with something thicker? Only if you want the performance. That's the type of video I'm working on next, and that's gonna come soon. So I'll just leave it at at there for now. And this, on the CPU side, the SCAR is winning by a good amount, actually. I mean, and I think it's got to be that thermal paste that they're using. But again, I don't know about longevity. Depending on how long I'm able to keep both of these laptops, maybe I could do an update on them. Okay, so next is Cyberpunk, running at ultra settings with DLSS quality. If DLSS is available, I'm always going to choose quality because I'm not seeing much degradation in performance at 1440p or even, and especially a 4K, and you get much more frames. So I've made the decision from the beginning to test with DLSS. I'm exploring AMD's version, FSR, to see how I feel about it. The only AMD laptop I have right now is the tiny G14, so that's probably not the best representation because it's a small, thin, and light laptop. Moving on. Okay. The GE76 is leading the pack at 1080p with 70 FPS, and at 1440p, it's close to the reigning champion at 50 FPS. At 4K, it's leading the charge by 27.7 FPS. Let's just say 28, versus the best other 4K performer was the Razer Blade 17 12900H with the 4K panel. Alright guys, here's some closing thoughts. This is a fantastic device. From the build quality, from the keyboard, my favorite keyboard on any laptop right now, any gaming laptop I should say. The numpad, the speakers sound good, the display is bright, over 500 nits. Though it's only 120 hertz and you will need to use VSync when gaming, other than that, and if you're okay with the size and the weight of this unit, this is 6.39 pounds. The brick's going to add even more. And this is not something you really want to carry around in your backpack all day. I don't know if that's a big deal to you or not, but this is solid. I mean, this is one of my favorite laptops, and I kind of want to keep this around so I could do some more long-term testing on it. I kind of don't want to give this one up. So with that being said, guys, all right, give me a like and give me a subscribe if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next one.